Welcome everybody. I'm Ben Lee, three-time agency owner, and I'm creating this video today from Costa Rica. You could probably tell a little bit from the backdrop. I decided to move down to the beach last year. I left my agency. I went through a ton of changes like pretty much everybody did during the pandemic. Kind of decided I didn't want to be running an agency business every day and dealing with that grind. I scaled the business to over 200 people. Decided it wasn't my thing, went through a lot of really interesting activities and visioning exercises that I'll share in future videos. And most importantly, decided I wanted to be creating content. So that's why I'm here. I'm gonna be creating content every single week. Make sure to subscribe below, but let's get into the video for today. So I got a question on my LinkedIn. Ben, what is your favorite sales strategy when selling services? So if you're following me, you probably are in the business of selling services, whether that's in design, creative, copywriting, video editing, and you have to deal with the very daunting task of dealing with sales calls, scoping sales calls, and trying to close a lead. So what is a strategy that I use most effectively when selling creative services for the last 12 years. So here are the 5 things that I use and incorporate when I am trying to close a lead on the phone. Number 1, I never talk about pricing. Now that sounds kind of counterintuitive to what you've been taught or other coaches you may have hired or YouTube videos or sales seminars. One of the most important things for me though in an initial meeting is that discovery time and understanding what the client's vision is, understanding their requirements, and going as long as possible without exposing your rate card, because that's really what the client is trying to get in that initial call, and that's what you're actually trying to not give away. So I do give a quote, but it's not a daily rate or a weekly rate or a monthly rate. It's mostly a ballpark. And the reality is, if you are in the business of selling creative services, you know that it's pretty much impossible to give a quote in 30 minutes or less, or even an hour or less. You need to really get into the client's head, the requirements, scope it, talk to members of your team, and then come back with an estimate. So in 90% of companies or industries that I've seen in professional services, it's always impossible to give away that, that quote or estimate on the initial call. So I talk about ranges. In selling custom development services, the range was you could build an app for $100,000, you can build an app for $250,000. So you're giving the client that range, and you're still managing expectations that this is the type of investment that is required to work with me. Now that's in a way its own form of qualifying the customer without you getting into specifics or committing numbers to scope, because what I'm trying to teach you is once you give a client a number, they're never going to forget it. They're always going to remind you. So if you say, okay, my rate is $75 an hour on that initial call, you could go through scoping, requirements, discovery, go through 20 meetings, and they're going to always remind you and say, hey, remember you told me that one time that it was going to be $75 an hour. Why has it changed? Why are there all these extra fees? Why are these extra resources? So we want to make sure we're defending your rates and your margins, because that's the name of the game when you're selling human capital. You gotta preserve the highest rate, highest margin you can get. All right, so the second thing that I do is I've got a productized offer ready to go. This is something that I've used probably 90% of the time in pitching creative services. I've taught it to members of my sales teams. I've taught it to other organizations that I coach. Why this is important is because it helps focus the customer. They're likely coming to you with some really grandiose idea or vision that they don't even know if it's possible. In our industry, we used to get so much of we want to build Uber for cats. We want to build, the next Google Maps. We want to build some virtual avatar app, but we don't know what it's going to cost. We don't know the technology. We don't know what it's going to take. So by having an offer ready to go, it focuses the client, so you don't have to waste, the entire time just talking about all this unknown scope or, their ideas and all that sort of thing. So let's talk a little bit about what that productized offer looks like. So in our business, we had a app scoping service or design sprint. Some agencies call it that. Others call it road mapping. Now, the objective is to educate the client or coach the client why they're not ready to get an estimate. So the call goes something like this. Hey, what's up, Ben? I need an estimate for my Uber for Cats app. Can you help me? I heard you're the best dev shop in town. My reply is gonna be, wow, thank you so much for thinking of us. We'd love to work with you on this project, but we don't really have enough information to give you an estimate. You know, there's a lot of complexities when building an on-demand app. Uber is a very big, expensive app. So in order for us to give you the most detailed estimate, we're gonna need to take you through a scoping exercise. It's gonna take a couple weeks. The cost is $15,000. We're basically building you this prototype or model car without the engine. That was kind of something I used to like to use. And then at the end of that exercise, we'll be in a much better place to give you that estimate. And then you could use that to go to investors, go to your rich uncle, whatever you need to do to get the financing to do the dev work and the implementations. That was pretty much the exact strategy. Now, you might be able to offer a script if you're a video editor, or maybe you're a web designer and you want to create a layout or a wireframe. So productized offers can mean a lot of things. And you know, the objective is not to get rich selling a productized offer. It's more about qualifying the client, making sure they're serious, learning a little bit more about their business, so then you can actually disclose your pricing. So that's when you come up with the pricing, much later on in the engagement. You know, the third, fourth, fifth, even sixth meeting, you have all the information. You go, okay, so this is how we work. Our weekly rate is X, or our dev rate is Y. And you've got a lot more confidence. You've got more information about their finances. Maybe you've even talked to their CFO if they've got one in the organization. So that's at that point when you want to reveal your pricing. Okay, so the third item is I want to try to get off the phone in 20 minutes or less. You're never going to be successful doing calls that are an hour or 90 minutes. Clients, their objective is to take advantage of your time. They want to extract as much value and information as they can, and I'm not going to let them. By having that productized offer, I can focus them. I can hear what they want. I can tell them my pitch now, what my offer is, and hopefully get them off the phone in 20 minutes or less, and then follow up. If you are doing calls for an hour or an hour and a half, stop. Do not do those. You should create Calendly links that are 20 minutes, okay, maybe 30 minutes, but nothing more. No client is going to take you serious if you're doing free sales calls for an hour. So one thing that's important for you is to understand the value of your time. My coaching rate is $3,000 an hour. So I know that if I'm giving away 1 hour of my time for free on a sales call, I'm losing $3,000 in revenue. That's a high opportunity cost for taking a lead that may be a good fit and may not. So that's another way of understanding, you know, what is your value of time, and to make sure you're defending that time as much as possible throughout the sales cycle. So the fourth thing is I'm giving the client something tangible, something that feels custom. What they don't actually know is this is the same generic deck that we use for every call we have that results in, okay, cool, we love your idea, we'd love to work with you, but check out our scoping proposal, or check out our road mapping proposal. So it makes it feel personal, it makes it feel custom. It's the exact same version every single time. You know, we're maybe changing their name or changing the company name or whatever, but for the most part, it is a boilerplate proposal, but it makes them feel like they've got something tangible that they can walk away with at the end of the call. That's not just a capabilities deck, or it's not just like a flyer of what you're doing. It's something that, you know, clearly states, you know, these are next steps. You know, the other thing is a lot of companies that they're going to be talking to aren't doing the same type of strategy as you will be doing. So you have this really cool differentiator in the market when, you know, they've had 4 other calls with other design studios or dev studios, and they've all gotten, you know, different estimates or pricing, and your approach was, hey, wait a minute, let's take a step back. You know, we can definitely help you, but you're not quite ready for us to, you know, give away our pricing. So kind of here's how our road leads to working with us, and here's a document that states everything. All right, and number 5, before you hang up on that call, you want to make sure you get time on the calendar with a prospect. So how does this look? You went through the offer, the call's maybe around 20, 25 minutes. You've explained, you've heard their vision, you've explained your offer, and then you immediately say, hey, I'd love to get some time on the calendar with you for next week. They might, be caught off guard, and they're likely going to say, okay, they're going to open their calendar. You want to get a 30-minute slot at that moment. You don't want to wait, because then you're basically risking client getting into that period of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. They may ghost you. You may not know what's going to happen. So avoiding all that, getting time on the calendar on that first call for next week. All right, guys. Well, those were my favorite sales strategies you can use when selling creative services. But in reality, any business owner can use these. I'm back on the tube. I would really appreciate if you hit subscribe below. I'd love to hear from you guys too. So if you have ideas for videos you'd like me to cover or any feedback, I love listening to you guys. So I'll see you soon.